Good evening and welcome to Android Authority on Air, the original Android Hangout show on Google+. I'm Derek Ross.
I'm Scott Anderson.
And this week we are joined by returning guest Jonathan Franklin, a fellow Android enthusiast, and new special guest Chris Hollis from Google TV Friends. Welcome, guys.
What's up, guys?
How you doing?
Glad to have you guys here. So, Scott, what do we have on the agenda this evening besides technical difficulties?
Besides technical difficulties, we're going to be talking about the Vizio Co-Star Google TV and how it kind of matches up to the competition, kind of first impressions, a little bit more in depth as well. Then we're going to be talking about what everybody's talking about right now, Samsung versus Apple and the verdict of the jury. And then we're going to be going over some Nexus rumors. You know how you love your Nexus devices rumors, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties. We're a little bit later for those of you watching us live. For those of you that listen or watch the recorded show, you didn't miss anything. We had some audio problems, we had some video problems, some computer problems. But you know what? We made it. So thanks for waiting. We're glad to have you here. As Scott said, we're going to talk about the Vizio Co-Star, the $99 Google TV that started arriving this week for many people that pre-ordered it. And thankfully, yours truly got his about 3 hours ago. So I'm very excited to announce that I have it, and I got to play with it for a couple hours, not as much as I'd like, but I did get to poke around here and there. But Chris Hollis is a resident Google TV expert, if you will. He knows a lot about Google TV devices and has been using them. The review device from Logitech, Sony's Google TV devices, as well as the new Co-Star. So we have him here on the show with us tonight to basically talk all things Google TV. As Scott was saying, maybe talk about some first impressions, the setup, accessories, software, just what was it like out of the box compared to other devices and so forth. So, Chris, you recently did a review for your site, Google TV Friends, on the Vizio Co-Star, correct?
Yes.
So, what were your initial impressions compared to past devices? Anything shine? Anything not shine that you were expecting to shine?
My first impression was it blows all the other devices away. Vizio did a great job changing the layout on this version compared to the Sony and the Logitech, where you always had to hit home and then you would lose your screen and you'd have to scroll through everything. Now everything's on your left-hand side. It overlays so you're not missing any TV. It just blows the other devices away. It really does. I love the Logitech, but it just blows it away.
Well, that's good. This is my first Google TV device. I have friends that have them. I've seen them. I've played around with them a little bit here and there, but never anything more than just a few minutes. And I've read about pretty much everything I could read, about the Sony Blu-ray player, the LG TV that has Google TV embedded into it, as well as the Logitech review. And that was my general thought too, that it was not where it should be. And it was a first-generation device. Like Android was not so good, a few years ago, and look at it now. So my understanding was it could be getting better. And from the reviews that I'm reading, they reflect pretty much what you said, is that, it's not bad. I mean, for $100, I'll tell you what, my TV has the Samsung Smart Hub built in,
right?
And that's, that's okay, I guess. But it's an ecosystem, it's content, it's apps that I'm not used to. So compared to that, I think it's, head over heels better. It's so much better than what I had for a smart TV. My initial 2-hour impression of setting it up and getting things to work is pretty awesome so far. I mean, I have a lot more to do. I'm probably not going to go to bed tonight. I'm going to stay up all night playing with it. But yeah, I'm excited. So, what did you? What do you think else stood out from previous devices besides just a little better UI and a little faster device?
Well, it all boils down to this device is the game changer for Google TV. The other two versions, the Logitech and the Sony, I just bought the Sony, the newest one, for $199, and all that is a dressed up version of the Logitech Review. So I paid $199 for a new box, which it's not worth it. But it's just faster. Like I said, the UI, the way they changed everything, it's going to impress everybody. The remote is so much more easier to use than the Sony remote, the Logitech keyboard that you could break your leg on if you tripped over it, but it's just so much better.
The remote's a little thicker than I had anticipated. I'm used to a very slender, thin remote that my Samsung TV has, and even my Comcast cable box remotes, a little bit thinner than this. It's very boxy. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad remote, but
it's almost, I forget who said it, but it reminds me of a 1970s first remote that you got with one of the older TVs.
Well, it is bigger and it is boxy, and it doesn't have a backlight either. And 4 of the buttons that are around the trackpad, I'll call it, they're just plastic buttons. They're not rubber buttons. They have a different feel to them. So I don't care. You only use the remote to press a few buttons anyways, so it doesn't have to be gold in your hand. But it would have been nice if a few things were a little different with it.
Well, I'm sorry.
I,
Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, I think. Well, I mean, with having a typable keyboard, I think that they chose that width for a reason, and I mean because it seems so light that they could have made it a lot smaller if they wanted to. But I think that was a design feature that they wanted to, so it was comfortable with people typing on it. Maybe.
Yeah, and you also got to remember, I haven't played with it yet, but there are buttons for gaming. We have the up, down, left, right arrows on the back, and we have an A, B. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Was it Y and Z? I believe.
X and Y, yeah.
Yeah, X and Y, and whatever it is. Yeah. So there's 4 buttons for gaming. So it's a game controller too. I haven't played around with it yet. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I'm excited to try that out. I'm excited to try out on live. As well as any other game that is compatible. I don't know if there are any compatible games in the Android or in Google Play, in the Play Store.
That's a tough one right now. There's really not any games available for that kind of control, but you can jump right into OnLive and play games with the controller. So
have you done that? Have you tried out
Yes.
OnLive?
That was the first thing I did when I hooked the device up. I went to OnLive and I played Darksiders 2. I got a free trial for 30 minutes, and I was able to move around. I did everything with no problem. It would have been better with the OnLive actual controller, but you can find games that you can use the regular remote for.
One thing that I noticed right out of the box, one of the first things I did is I hit search, and I typed in the show name, and I found TV shows that I could, old seasons of the show I could buy or rent, through the Play Store. I found shows that were going to be starting soon on, through the TV Guide, YouTube videos, related web searches, and so forth. So it was pretty neat. It's nice to have a connected TV to be able to do that. Now, I don't know yet because I haven't set that up, but if I hooked up an app that worked with a DNLA server, would it search that for that content as well?
Believe it will, yes.
Okay, that very exciting. That's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
That's personally what I'm looking forward to, is the streaming media and kind of cord cutting a little bit more than I have been.
Now I have a Comcast DVR. It would be very cool if the search feature searched my shows on my DVR. Does it do that? I have not tried that yet.
Yeah, I can't answer that one yet. I don't have a
Yeah, that's something that when I'm up at 5 a.m. tonight, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be, I want to know how this thing can do everything for me and make my life so much easier when it comes to watching TV, which I don't watch a whole lot of anymore. So, but hey, I can, I installed the Google Music app, and I was listening to some music on my TV, which is, it's when you're having a party or something, you have people over, you can play music right there. I was thinking about getting some nice screensavers, for the TV. But besides that, I mean, just regular eye candy. I think it's going to be great. I can't wait to have more time to play around with it.
I don't know how you store your photos or anything like that, but there's one app called Floating Images for Google TV.
Okay.
That will draw all your pictures from Picasa, Flickr, Photo Bucket, anything, and you start your Google Music in the background. Then you start floating images, and all your pictures will just float across the TV. And
cool.
It's nice. It's nice for a party, or if you're entertaining family and they want to see pictures.
Yeah. So I guess that leads me to an important question for people that are new to Google TV, such as myself. Do you have a list of apps that are, we'll say, must-have apps that are your go-to, or apps that you recommend everybody at least try, or that you need to have?
Well, the first app I have to mention is Able Remote, because everybody complains about the remotes that come with the Google TVs, and Able Remote works on your Android device, so you control your TV and you can set it up any way you want right from your Android phone. So
I shouldn't use the Google TV remote that I downloaded and tried to use in a couple.
It was last updated in 2010 of December.
I saw that. I went to install it, and I saw like December 2010. I was like, really? This thing's almost 2 years old. Well, I hope it works good. And it did.
They're working on it, though. They're working on it.
Well, I like to see something that's been updated at least in the last 6 months, let alone a year and a half.
Especially from Google.
Yeah, it's almost like it's been abandoned. I hope with the next iteration of Google TV that comes out, second gen software, I guess as people are calling it. I hope that the remote updates happen. But so Able Remote, why do I want that? What's so much better about it than the other remote?
Because it's fully customizable. You can create macros. You can put your favorite channels on there. You can put your favorite apps on there. You can change the layout of it. You won't need your regular remote anymore. You really won't. And as far as the original Google TV remote, if you watch any of the Google TV developer hangouts, they let out little hints every now and then. So they're working on it, on the original one.
So is
a big thing about Able Remote, what I've heard is that you can customize all of your favorites. So you can just put it all on your phone, and you can go to whatever channel you want.
Yes.
And that's pretty cool, I think.
Yes. You don't need the TV remote anymore with Able.
And so basically, your TV remote will just be there for playing on live, and everything else will be on your smartphone.
Yes.
Okay. I like that. I need to write that down. That is something I'm going to do at 2 a.m. tonight when I'm up all night playing.
And then there's 3 apps I have to mention that they don't get any recognition, but they're probably 3 of the best apps to have. One is Socialize TV, the other one is Social GTV, and the other one is TV Tweets. With the 2 of them, you can overlay your TV screen. So if you're watching a football game, basketball, sporting, anything, you can put in the hashtags, and those whatever hashtags you put in, they'll come up on your screen what people are tweeting.
Nice.
And
so
the other
Socialize TV.
Well, Socialize TV is the only app, and it's only available on Google TV, where you can actually tweet from your live TV. As you're watching TV, you can tweet from your TV. It's hard to explain. You have to look at the app or watch the video. But
so you're watching the season finale of an episode, and a main character dies. You can tell all your Twitter friends what happened and piss them all off. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yes, and
Okay.
you can
There
do
you
that
go.
right from the TV.
So there you go. You can troll people on Twitter about their favorite TV shows.
But those three apps there, they don't get any attention. You know, they're buried within the apps of the Google Play, but they were three of the original TV tweet apps. So
I'll have to check them out. I'm not a huge Twitter user anymore. This new social network came up about a year ago called Google Plus. I've pretty much I've pretty much used used it exclusively since then. But that's cool though. You know, I think
yeah.
that's very cool. Now only if I can Google, get on Google Plus from Google TV. That would be the next thing.
Well, it works. It works great in the browser. It really does.
Okay.
Now, the future, are they going to combine the Q and Google TV? Do you think that would be the foreseeable future of Google TV?
I haven't heard one thing about the Q since they pulled it. I mean, no rumors, no nothing. No one's discussed it. It's like a forbidden word, so I don't know.
I think it needs to. Something has to converge there.
Well, rumor has it that the Google TV team did not know about the Q until it was, too late to stop the engines, we'll say. And they were, said once again, rumor has it that they weren't too impressed with each other, but that we'll just leave it at that. We'll see what happens now that they're redesigning, adding features, whatever to the Q. So I don't know. I think some type of integration will be pretty neat. You walk up to your Google TV box and you ping it with your smartphone or something. There's your content, your videos, your music or something for people over or something like that. Some type of integration, I guess that would be neat.
So, Chris, we got a question. It comes from Josh. Do any of you know anything about the Sony Google TV experience versus the Vizio experience? I have a Vizio TV, but it looks like the Sony player works better for my DLNA needs.
He has a Sony TV or a Sony device?
He has a Vizio TV, but it looks like the Sony player works better for DLNA needs. So basically, he has a Vizio TV, and he's debating on whether to get a Sony Google TV or a Vizio.
So a Sony the Blu-ray player Google TV, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're trying to push an update from what Vizio said. I tested some files with GTV Box, another Google app that everybody loves, and there are some problems with some of the files that the Vizio can support. So I would say either hold off because they're going to push an update out, or go with the Sony if you want the Sony.
So this is neat for me to say, but right now we're being watched live via Google TV. Yeah, so that's very cool. We have one of our viewers watching us from their Google TV, their actual Vizio Co-Star from the YouTube app right now. So that's cool. People are using it. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and don't forget this is Vizio's first device, and if this is where the Google TV is going, it's only going to get better with Vizio.
I'm curious if Vizio is going to bake this into their TVs in the future. With the next generation. I don't know why we would need. Vizio has a specific market. I mean, they make nice quality TVs for a fraction of the cost. They're cheap in terms of price, but quality they're all right. They're not bad.
And that's why we have our father's first remote control, because the price is right. Those things we overlook.
Exactly.
I think in that situation, Derek, I think it would be more so they want to have backwards compatibility with older TVs, and that's a huge market as opposed to selling new TVs.
Yeah, but look at somebody like me. I needed a new TV a few months ago because my other one died. So I needed to buy a new TV, and I knew I wanted to get Google TV, and the LG at the time wasn't getting the greatest reviews. So I said, well, so I'm going to buy a smart TV, because you can't buy a 3D TV that isn't a smart TV. So I'm going to buy a smart TV, and I'm going to overlay and not even use its smart capabilities for another provider's smart capabilities. And that seemed kind of dumb, because I'm paying for a smart TV, probably an extra $100 or $200 or whatever, to have all these features, but now I'm not even using them, and I'm okay with that. But it just, I would have rather bought it built in if I could have. And like I said, the LG wasn't getting the hottest reviews at the time, so I didn't go with that. I went with a higher quality product, and I love my TV, but if I could have got it baked in, I would have bought that. So yeah, maybe I'd like to see in the future. Hey, you know what? I need a TV. Well, you know, the one in the bedroom's a little small, so maybe in 6 months, you know, maybe I'll be able to buy that. You know, we'll see.
Yeah, and Michael makes a good point that. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I think it's perfectly viable that they offer, you know, a separate solution and they integrate it too. I mean, it's pretty similar hardware-wise anyway, as to what they're using to power their TVs already. So, it's just
and
the software.
Yeah, and Michael made a good point. His Vizio got an update tonight, and mine right out of the box got an update. Now I don't know if it was the same update that Michael got, but I got an update. So. Yeah, so I got an update tonight, and yeah, pretty interesting. Tonight, Derek?
The Vizio. Actually, you know what? I filed a bug report, so if I get disconnected, I'm going to send this to Chi-Chi. That's great, because every single time I've signed up for the bug report, I haven't actually got disconnected. So that was actually good that happened. Anyways, what was I saying? So yeah, there was 2 updates actually for the CoStar. There was one big one, and then there was one that was supposedly fixed. I guess 5.1 sound issues. I guess there was 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and I guess the last app would have to be. I'm sorry. Let me just get this in. Would be MIDI. It's for downloading peer-to-peer on the Google TV, and that would have to be the last app I could recommend to anybody.
Okay.
MIDI?
MITTY.
MITTY, okay.
Yes, MIDI.
Interesting. Okay, so anything else we want to say about the Vizio? Setup was a cinch. I need another cable in order to get my cable running through it. I have a cable top box that goes from composite to composite. So I plug it into composite, but it's still HD. But I need. Is there such thing as a composite to HDMI?
I've read a couple things, and it wasn't pretty, so I'm not going to answer that one.
I'll have to look for a new box upgrade then.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there, but from what people have been saying,
okay. And then the USB port. What can the USB port be used for?
Music, movies, any kind of files you want. Just plug it in, and it'll sync in a heartbeat.
Sweet.
General hackability as well.
Excuse me?
General hackability as well.
I don't know about that, but. But I plug in everything into it. You know, every remote, every controller I had, the Xbox, you know, the PS3, the US regular, nothing works but the music and the movies. So.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna be figuring out some options for that, and it'll be fun.
So next week we get to hear your opinion on it, Scott.
Yeah. Oh, and it's been my first week with a rooted Galaxy Nexus. So.
Yeah, a little sidebar for those of you that watch our show, because you guys watch it or listen to it every single week, right? And if you're not, well, we'll talk. You know, we won't hold that against you. But last week we kind of talked about maybe on this week's upcoming show we would be rooting Scott's devices for him and putting Jelly Bean on them, and because he's never rooted an Android device before. But all that talk we had last week, he just couldn't handle it. I got a message from Scott Monday night saying, I need Jelly Bean on my Galaxy Nexus from Verizon. Please help me. And something along those lines,
And if we don't have a lot of news next week, I'd be up for rooting my Nexus 7 because I actually see some benefits in doing that. So.
You see some benefits in rooting? Oh my! You know what? We have changed Scott Anderson. The Scott Anderson of 2 weeks ago. Rooting was bad. It was evil. You never wanted to do it.
I never said that. I never said it was evil. I just said that it was the nature of the device in the way that Verizon intended it, not Google.
All right.
You still have your Zoom from Verizon because that's perfectly viable to root.
We've converted you to the real dark side, so
that's more justifiable to root than the Nexus 7, I would think.
Yeah, there are just some apps that I think I'd like to use with the Nexus 7, but.
So, real quick announcement here for those of you watching before we get into the second half of the show. Android Authority is right now having a contest for a giveaway. And the giveaway is going to be the International Galaxy Note 2. So, if you're interested in a free phone, a free flagship phone that's not even out yet, it'll be announced here in a few days, we're giving one away. And to get all your invite codes, or to get all your entry codes, all you do is you go to AndroidAuthority.com, you follow the instructions on the post, which is all the general things for social media. Like us on Twitter, or like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Google+, comment here, do this post, yada yada yada. But oh wait, there's more. During the show tonight, later in the show, I'm not going to tell you when, so you're going to have to watch to find out. So once again, you're just tuning in. Later in the show, we're going to give you a special code, a special word, a special phrase, and you're going to take that and you're going to go to AndroidAuthority.com, you're going to find the giveaway post, you're going to go to the raffle copter, and you're going to get down to the bottom, and where it says Android Authority on air, code entry, you're going to put that code in there, and it's going to give you one additional entry for the Galaxy Note 2 giveaway. So we'll give you that special code here in a little bit, and so you can go and enter it.
Sweet.
I got to run, guys. I just want to thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you for talking all things Google TV for us and letting us know what apps we should definitely check out. That's very helpful. And said we'd love to have you back again in the future.
Yeah, if you need help, you know how to get in touch with me.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, so let's talk about some small news this week before we get into the big guy here, the Samsung versus Apple trial that just has me so happy. So Nexus rumors, right? We're getting to the end of summer. It's the end of August. Fall is just right around the corner, and that means Nexus devices, right? So it's about that time for rumors to start. So earlier this week, to not let anybody down, we had some Nexus rumors. Remember a few months back, I believe in May, don't hold that against me if I'm wrong, we heard that Google might be partnering with multiple vendors this time around for multiple Nexus devices. So to further confirm that rumor, I guess, to play along with that rumor, to help push it around the rumor mill, we heard about the Xperia Nexus possibly coming out, which would be made by Sony. We heard about the Galaxy Nexus 2 possibly coming out, obviously made by Samsung, and the Optimus Nexus, which would be made by LG. Now, those three devices were, we'll say, leaked on a spec sheet for upcoming devices in the upcoming fall, upcoming winter, from a major carrier in Japan. So take that however you wish, but 3 devices from 3 major manufacturers.
One carrier.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're on their way to 5 devices. Now we could further speculate and say, well, there might be a Motorola one, and that would be 4. There might be an HTC one, that would be 5. But let's say there's just 3 phones. We have a Nexus 7, that makes the 4th Nexus device, if that's true, and then we have the rumored Nexus 10 tablet, which would make 5 devices. Now, that's my take on it. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but we might see that 2 different tablets and 3 different phones. So I guess my question is, for those of you watching, listening later, listening now, what would you want your next Nexus device to be? Who do you want it to make it? What manufacturer? What vendor? Do you want? Are you going to be looking for the Xperia Nexus? You a big Sony fan, or the Galaxy Nexus, which we'll talk about that in a second. Is the current phone now is just a slight bump, or the Optimus Nexus? You an LG fan? Do you want the LG version? So personally, I have 0 problems with my Galaxy Nexus now. Even though the next one, the rumor is that it's just a slight bump in specs, a little better screen. It's a Super AMOLED HD screen. Processor is just a very slight jump to 1.5 gigahertz over the 1.2 right now. Just a little bit better camera, and a little front-facing and rear camera, a little bit bigger on the megapixels. I believe 8 for the rear, and was it 1.9 or 2.0 for the front-facing camera. So it's a little bump in specs. I'm okay with that. It doesn't need to be, something amazingly awesome that if I show somebody they're going to have a heart attack because the specs are so cool. I mean, we're really at a point where, you can only make it run so fast. But, and again, I do like my specs. So maybe I would want an Optimus Nexus or an Xperia Nexus, something that has a little more power to it. But then that brings me to my next point, is that generally Nexus have been, powerhouse phones. So how can you have 3 powerhouse phones? Are we gonna have a super duper high end phone, a mid range phone, and then I don't know. I mean, it seems kind of weird. How are we gonna gauge them? Are we gonna have 3 different tiers of Nexus phones? Or are they all gonna be the same specs, just made by different manufacturers? I don't know.
I think I've heard it before. Obviously, there's no way to really know what goes on behind the scenes when it happens, but when it comes around for the presentations, I think all the manufacturers actually present to Google a rumored, what they would produce for a Nexus, and kind of compete with each other quietly. I mean, obviously not in the same room at the same time. But maybe Google came to the point where they just said, okay, why don't we just go ahead and let all of them make one? Just like they planned on doing, and they were competing with each other. It's just, why don't we just turn them loose?
Yeah, I'm curious. My biggest concern is carriers. I want to make sure that my carrier, Verizon, is getting another Nexus, which after after the current debacle that's going on right now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd like it to happen. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, my confidence high, but I don't know if that will happen.
I think the 2 things that are going to be huge selling points is the stock Google experience. That's one. So specs are okay, but it'll be that and battery life. I think the biggest battery would win.
For me, it would, because that's the only thing I would change about the Galaxy Nexus, and a lot of that's because of first-generation LTE hardware. But just having the same phone with, say, a Snapdragon S4 in it would be a gigantic improvement.
Yeah.
Because first-generation LTE is just terrible.
I agree. Derek, what would you need in your next phone?
What would I need in my next phone?
Yeah, if it was a Nexus.
Well, I'm perfectly happy with my phone right now, my Galaxy Nexus. I mean, a better camera. and better battery life.
Yeah.
I really don't need to get any faster. It already is fast and does everything I need to do in terms of speed. A better screen, a little higher, a pixel, a little higher, DPI maybe. So a better screen, better battery life, which might boil down to, LTE radio code, or a bump in the camera megapixel. So the Galaxy Nexus 2, if those specs are right, and as long as battery holds up, I'm okay with that. Better screen, better camera. I'd be okay with it. I'd buy into that again. I would. I don't have any problems with my current phone, but for a better camera and better battery life, yeah.
So if you had the option between, let's say, something magical happens, and Verizon just happens to get all 5 of these rumored phones, which ones do you get?
Well, if there is
I personally, I would take a Motorola or Sony Nexus first. Period. Motorola probably being the top.
Well,
Sony?
I've never even held a
Sony's kind of underrated, man.
I've never held an Xperia device or any Sony phone in my hand. Because the last Sony phone I held in my hand was an Ericsson from like 8 years ago. So I don't know what their Android phones are like. I've personally never used one.
I would compare them to somewhere between HTC and Motorola, feel-wise, hardware-wise, I guess. I'm not talking about the software, because the software's up to you as far as whether you like it, but as far as they generally go with Qualcomm, they generally have good build quality, they have good cameras, but it's I'd say it's somewhere between Motorola and HTC as far as how the phone is hardware implemented.
Okay.
Good radio firmware.
So let's move on to a couple more tidbits Android news this week, and then we'll wrap up the last 20 minutes or so talking about the trial verdict. So I don't use Facebook. I haven't in over a year because there's this new social network out there, Google Plus.
We don't know what that is.
Yeah, we don't know what that is, but apparently the Facebook app is bad.
It is.
Those of you that use it, you might know what I'm talking about. Maybe you, Scott, John, maybe you do. Apparently it's so bad. Facebook, they're making all of their employees switch over to Android phones, so they see actually how bad it is and actually dog food, and use it. So they're taking dog fooding to an extreme, which is very cool. I mean that if I was a Facebook user, I'd be a big fan of that. A company knows they have a problem, and the only way to really determine what that problem is to actively use it, to experience it, to go through it. So that's good news for you Facebook addicts out there, and I'm happy for you.
I think that they could solve that very quickly through acquisition, just like Friendcaster does a great job. Just buy it out, fix the bugs, put your name on it, and be done with it.
I think they gotta make it from the ground up if they want it to be their experience. Personally,
their experience is horrible on Android. I mean, it's just.
I agree, but
it's going to take them a long time, I think, to come up with a native app that's salvageable.
Mm-hmm.
So the Galaxy Note came out about 2 weeks ago on T-Mobile. T-Mobile fans were happy. They were able to get the phablet, the phone tablet, whatever people are calling it. And then after 2 weeks, T-Mobile said, well, the next one's coming out soon. It's right around the corner. We're gonna remove it from our website. We're not going to be actively selling it anymore. So if you didn't get the Note, sorry about your luck. But hey, there's another one coming soon, so maybe T-Mobile will be a carrier for that in the beginning and not have to wait an extremely long time for it to show up on that carrier like it did last time. Let's talk about a couple leaks for phones, and then we'll get into the trial. So yeah, we're still having ice cream sandwich leaks. Which is funny because ice cream sandwich was announced October 15th.
It don't got no butter.
So those of you that have the HTC Incredible 2, I can guarantee you that ice cream sandwich is coming because this week a ice cream sandwich firmware was leaked for it, and people installed it and loved it and rejoiced that ice cream sandwich was coming. Following that, the HTC Thunderbolt, Verizon's bastard LTE phone.
Red-headed stepchild.
The red-headed
There ever was
stepchild.
one.
Their very first LTE phone is getting ice cream sandwich soon. And a ROM was leaked for it this week. People installed it, loved it. Both HTC phones got a major bump in Sense from Sense 2.1 to Sense 3.6, I believe. So they got a major UI bump as well as ice cream sandwiches UI changes. And then last but not least, the Samsung Galaxy S3 is rumored to get Jelly Bean very, very, very soon. And it's been having multiple leaks, like 3 or 4 now over the past 2 weeks. The latest ones this week put out a new Jelly Bean ROM for the international version as well as the T-Mobile version. So if you have the T-Mo or the international version, you can go ahead and sample those at your own risk, obviously. Be careful. Anytime you do something like that, be extra careful. Make sure you know what you're doing. Doing that isn't for everybody. So let's get into the Samsung versus Apple trial that's been going on for the past few weeks and blew up the internet a few hours ago. John, what are your initial thoughts on that? Just have at it.
Mixed in some areas. As far as Apple's claims to a lot of intellectual property, I think are bogus. But on the other hand, I think there are a lot of things that Samsung has done to just kind of stir the pot there. A good example, my mom has a Samsung Fascinate, which is basically a Galaxy S clone that Verizon made even worse by slapping Bing on top of it and other things. But as far as a lot of the verdict from the trial is relative to early TouchWiz that doesn't exist in TouchWiz now, kind of like the rounded icons, the squared icons, the bounce back. If you use a phone like that, the Galaxy S series in general, there are similarities, and there are some things that Samsung still does that makes you question, kind of like S Voice. Things like it's almost like they're just provoking Apple to come after them. Even in situations where Google gave them warning to not kind of look at trade dress.
Yeah, they did.
Now, beyond that, I think that the patents and Apple's arguments, for the most part, are most of it should be invalid, completely. Software patents, I don't agree with. Microsoft and Apple have been bullying. The biggest problem, I guess, I have is when you have Samsung and your Motorola's and your Qualcomms and your Nokias come along and they spend billions of dollars researching and getting cell technology where it is today, and then make that standards essential, which is true, it should be standards essential. But then companies like Microsoft and Apple come in late and then act as if what you've done in the past 15 years is completely, of no value whatsoever. And they've put in, to me, it takes a lot more effort to come up with a cell radio than it does a touch gesture.
Yeah.
Scott, what are your thoughts on the verdict? Initial reactions, initial thoughts.
My initial thoughts were, and throughout the trial, my thoughts were, Samsung, why are you doing this? And it just kind of became apparent that Samsung, in certain aspects, is trying to, not necessarily copy, but try to mimic other products. And I mean, with the icon design, I don't agree with that. That's ridiculous. People have become accustomed to a certain looking call icon, and like a universal call icon. So I don't know. Samsung did a lot of this for themselves, and they kind of dug their own hole, I think.
Yes, they're similar products because in terms of looks, because that's what the consumer wants. I mean, I really think Samsung said it best today, and I'm going to read their reaction statement. They said, "Today's verdict should not be viewed as a win for Apple," which they're going to play on the people's feelings here, saying that, but it was a loss for the American consumer, which that is true. They said it will lead to fewer choices, less innovation, and potentially higher prices, which when a company is allowed to create a monopoly and ruled that they're allowed to have a monopoly, then yes, this does happen. They continued to say, it is unfortunate that patent law can be manipulated to give a company a monopoly over rectangles with rounded corners. and yeah, that is 100% it. I mean, are we going to start? Am I going to walk around with the trapezoid as a phone from now on? I mean, or am I going to go with the triangle as a phone? I mean,
maybe if your Google glasses are shaped like that.
I mean, people. I mean, here's my wallet. This is pretty much the standard wallet. It's a rectangle. So it's the standard wallet. I mean, for hundreds of years, well, maybe not hundreds of years. People use, saddlebags and stuff 100 years ago, but whatever. You don't understand what I'm saying. So leather wallets haven't really changed a lot. I don't see, Coach suing Louis Vuitton every single day that they designed the same rectangular leather wallet. It's a standard. So all right. So they continue to say that. I lost my place. Consumers have the right to choices, and they know what they're buying into when they purchase Samsung products. They're not getting duped. They're not walking into a store, walking into a Best Buy, and coming out with a Galaxy Tab 10.1, getting home and saying, "Huh, this isn't an iPad." That's just consumer education right there, and that's also because right now, when I go blow my nose, I say I want a Kleenex. I don't say I want a tissue. I say I want a Kleenex. Kleenex is actually a brand name. When I want to clean my ears, I don't use I don't even know what it's called.
Cotton swab.
I don't use a cotton swab. I use a Q-tip. I eat popsicles. These are all name brands that when I want to make copies of something, I say, hey, can you Xerox that for me? These are name brands in America have become synonymous to their products.
It's associated with whichever one was the first.
Yeah, exactly. The very first one that became popular. So I have all the time people say to me, "Oh, is that an iPad?" And they're not really actually saying, "Is that an iPad computer made by Apple?" That's just what it's called because it was the first one. So everything's an iPad. iPad means tablet. So
that's what I do that with my Galaxy Nexus. They ask me if it's one of those iPhones, but it's generally the people that just aren't into that.
Because it's what came out first. That's what people call it. Oh, is that an iPhone? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's similar to an iPhone. No, it's a. Then you say some crazy long Android name that makes you hang your head in shame.
Sounds like a condom.
Oh no, this is the HTC Photon Q4G LTE. But names aside, names mean, I don't know.
Well, I think the perception, and it's kind of funny because they're making it out as if Samsung is a cheap knockoff, and it's really not the case because if you look at historically, look at all the MP3 players that tried to copy the iPod and got nothing for sales. Yeah. It's not the fact that it's subpar or anything that's affecting that. It's the fact that they're putting out a product that is at least as good as their product, and they're getting sales based upon that. If it was just a cheap knockoff that wasn't worth anything, then the consumer wouldn't react on it at all. And that's really where the big issue that from Apple's side of it, that's because they're just not getting out innovated by everybody, and that's open source. That's the speed of open source working against them. But
so Samsung continues to say that this is not the final word. In this case,
Let's go straight to appeals.
or in battles being waged in the courts and tribunals around the world, which we know that patent wars continue. Patent wars continue in South Korea, where Samsung was actually recently, they were found to not infringe. So and as well in Europe, and these cases are going to continue. And they said that some of which have been already rejected of Apple's claims, which yes, in many parts of the world, Apple's claims have been rejected. And they closed it by saying that Samsung will continue to innovate and offer choices for the consumer. And we can see that they're already starting to change that with the Galaxy S3, which looks nothing like an iPhone. Maybe the next major tablet from Samsung will look nothing like an iPad.
The Note doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
The Note is hideous too. So.
Well, that's a different topic.
I think the Note is probably the first example of a tablet that they designed with that in mind.
Yeah. And I think that they're going to just completely go after them using Motorola.
They should.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Motorola and Google's going to use them to their advantage, and hopefully they do. And hopefully Motorola comes out with some good devices. I know that they've used some devices in the past that have been, and they've made some bad decisions with the Razr Max. I'll tell you that.
The bad thing is the Razr Max, aside from the display, is a pretty good phone.
Yeah, but the amount of variations that they made to that phone.
Yeah.
And coming out with different it's not cool.
If you were an original Razr buyer, you were just absolutely livid when they came out with the Max 2 months later.
Exactly, and you can't do that to your consumers. You can't just completely, there's a better one out now.
I will give them the credit that they have been going this long and haven't put out a device, whereas back when it was a Droid 3 and a Droid 4, they were coming out with something every 3 months, and it's been a good almost a year. We're coming up on a year since they put a device out, so I think they're finally kind of starting to put their money where their mouth is.
And I wonder if, and that's what makes me wonder about the next Nexus device, that if Motorola will be contributing to that, because they need to come out with a bang, and they need to say, hey, we're still in it, and we're in it to win it.
I think that, and if they unlocked a bootloader on Verizon, I'm all over that device, period. Because I am. That's me. I have a Zoom. It's probably, it's older now, but the thing's a tank. I can't say that about, my Nexus is well built too, but Motorola just has build quality down to,
Yeah, I will definitely give them that.
And
they definitely have build
it's not the prettiest girl at the prom or anything, but I don't even care about that, so.
Yeah, definitely well-built devices, and hopefully they can bring that to the next Nexus. That'd be really cool.
Now, the last thing about patent wars that I want to talk about is Google/Motorola last Friday filed suit against Apple to ban a slew of Apple devices, the iPad, the iPhone, the iPod Touch, as well as
Mac
and MacBooks for patent infringement. And we didn't actually know what patents. 7 different ones were outlined this week. Some light was finally shed on the subject. So Google is fighting back to help Android. We'll see what happens in this coming week with that. And that injunction, see if it actually happens. It would be nice for Apple to get a taste of their own medicine, in my opinion. But
it would. I don't see it happening. Kind of like Motorola had that injunction ban on the Xbox, and
yeah,
it didn't really get banned. And to me, fair is fair. They blocked the One X. Things along those lines. It may not be HTC's only device or anything, but it was a significant device for them that they delayed a release on.
Well, my opinion, being nowhere near a lawyer nor understanding patent law, but my opinion would be to attempt to patent everything, anything and everything. If you can patent a shape, then you can patent anything, in my opinion. So no matter how minuscule it is, manufacturers need to do that. I mean, OEMs need to do that to ward off somebody deciding, well, because this rectangle has rounded corners, well, we designed that. So whoever's going to make the first trapezoid Android phone, I want you to patent it so Apple does not do that, does not come out with one.
There's quite a few things. I think Google is kind of a newer company to the legal side of that, where Apple and Microsoft are very old school. I think they're finally realizing how seriously they have to take it. So I think they're starting to escalate that a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the giveaway in case anybody decided to watch here or tune in since the first half of the show. Android Authority, we are giving away a Samsung Galaxy Note 2 International. The link will be attached to this post, as well as different audio feeds, so forth and so forth. If you can't find it, just head on out to AndroidAuthority.com and look for the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 International giveaway article. There's a rafflecopter on there, and you can enter multiple ways. You can like on Facebook, follow, yada, 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 the normal spiel, all the social networks. But for this show, we have a special deal for you. You can get an additional entry into the raffle by entering this word, Patent Wars. PATENTWARS. Patent Wars, all one word. So once again, you need an extra entry, an additional chance to win. Enter Patent Wars into the rafflecopter.
And when will this be given away? When will we announce the winner?
Why are you asking me questions I don't know the answer to?
Patent Wars, is that one word or space the words out?
It's one word, Patent Wars.
Okay.
And I just answered my own question. I believe it's no. Never mind.
So the Note 2 isn't even announced yet. So you really can't.
Oh yeah, we don't have a date.
We know it's coming. It's going to be announced here in a couple days. So the contest is running from August 23rd to September 23rd. So you're going to have another month to do this. You don't have to do this tonight, but the contest is going to run for a month straight, and then whenever the device does come out, we're going to give it away. So go ahead and visit the site. You have 11 different chances to win. I said following, liking, subscribing, yada, 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 and Patent Wars for the listening to the Android Authority on air. You put in Patent Wars. So speaking of social media and all the things, you can find us on Twitter at Android Auth. You can subscribe to us now on Google Currents. We are on Google Currents now. You don't have to use the RSS feed. So go load up Currents and type in Android Authority. We are in there. You can circle us on Google+. You can follow us on Facebook, and as well as YouTube. You can subscribe there and watch these videos as well as other reviews on various devices. You can also listen to this via podcast on Stitcher Radio, on SoundCloud, on Podbean, and on iTunes. Thank you guys for stopping by. Chris Hollis, I know you stepped out early, but we appreciate you being here talking about the CoStar and Google TV. Jonathan Franklin, thank you for joining us again, a fellow Android enthusiast with all sorts of opinions and all thing Android. And Scott, well, thanks for rooting and coming to the dark side. I appreciate that.
And I want to root next week, so we'll do that live, and I'll do a screen share on all my steps.
You know what? That that isn't that exciting. But we'll do it. We'll make it exciting. I don't know. Maybe every time he makes a mistake, we'll make Scott do a shot. How about that?
Maybe he can root his phone while installing Gentoo Linux at the same time.
While juggling.
And so, Scott, you got to grow a neck beard for next week, all right?
I'm not growing a neck beard for next week.
You're not growing a neck beard? Come
No.
on.
Well, hey, you might be surprised. I might grow some facial hair, but not a neck beard.
No neck beard? Okay, all right. So next week, Scott's having a neck beard while he roots, and he's doing shots if he makes a mistake. Okay. All right,
You heard
guys.
it here first.
You heard it here first. Thank you. Appreciate it. Remember, Patent Wars, entry code. Have a good night.
All right.